How can we as parents or teachers bring out the best in our children? How can we bring out the best in ourselves? The strength-based approach provides important answers to these questions. It can help us better deal with problems as well as become happier and more successful. On HappierTalk today, we have a leading expert whose wisdom can help us all rise higher and become stronger. She's the Director of Practice at the VIA Institute for the Study of Character Strengths and works with individuals and organizations. She helps teachers, parents, coaches, and administrators fulfill their own and others' potential through the strengths-based approach. She's a certified coach and a licensed counseling psychologist specializing in child and family therapy. It is a great honor and pleasure to have with us Dr. Donna Mayerson, who can help us be the best that we can be. Welcome, Donna. Thank you for being here on HappierTalk.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Donna, as a parent, I often think about how I can apply the strength-based approach. So at work, it seems more intuitive to me. Mm-hmm. You're dedicating your work now to just that, help.
So there are two parts. One part has to do with being able first to identify your strengths as a parent. So to be able to mindfully observe your own parenting skills and behaviors and to identify and to track what strengths you bring out when you're the best you can be at parenting. Because I think that provides the backdrop for kids to become their best selves.
And do I do that by looking back at when I was at my best as a parent, telling stories about my best experiences?
I think the best way to really uncover what your strengths are in parenting is to think of those times in which you just felt like you were hitting on all cylinders, that you had those moments that were just very priceless and amazing. And to reflect back on that and to think, well, what did I bring? What strengths did I have that I brought forward in those interactions that really made me feel like I was in my own skin and really parenting the way I really envisioned that I always wanted to parent.
So this is the first step. The first step is looking at yourself as a parent. The second step?
The second step is really becoming a very, very astute observer of your child. So we oftentimes look at our kids and look at their accomplishments and all the things that they can do. But we recognize often who they are, but we don't label it and we don't bring that to them. So we can say, well, my child's great at riding a bike. And we can observe that they were really persistent in learning how to do that. But we often don't call that to their attention.
The persistence part.
Yeah. So what kids take from that is that my parent thinks I was really good at riding my bike. And what they could take from that is I worked really, really hard to ride my bike, and I have that capacity, and I can do that again in my life. So there are lots of rich and rare opportunities in which those things just appear, and so it becomes important to actually have a language for that, and then not just to have a language, but to share that with your child so that they become very well aware of the strengths they bring to the world, so they can use them in their life in a productive way.
Great. Can you give a few examples? Because I understand the theory, and I understand the specific example of persistence. What are some other strengths that parents could find in their kids?
So, well, I'll give you an example of a child who had a new sibling in the family. And because that's often a challenging time for kids, and they feel very threatened, and their behavior seems to change before our eyes. And so it's very common for parents to come and say, I don't know what happened. She was really loving and she was amazing. And then we had this new baby, and all of a sudden she's demanding, and seems very short, and she seems like she's more aggressive now. But what they don't identify is that oftentimes those kids are very, very curious, and they are very also loving, and they want to have a way in which they can express those things, but they don't often have an entree in. And so they push at the edges of things, and they to try to find a way in. And I think it's disconcerting to parents because they don't exactly know what's happening. And sometimes they can think that their child has been replaced by some other child. And so I think to reflect on what are those strong characteristics, those strong strengths that the child has exhibited in the past is a way for parents to see, well, what does that child really want to bring to this? What is this child really trying to express? And are they trying to express their curiosity or their love in a way with this new child, with this new sort of interloper in our family? Are they trying to find a way to express the best parts of themselves, but they don't have an entree in?
And let's say I do identify curiosity or love as a strength. What would be the next step?
It would be relabeling it or labeling it for that child. Like you might say, like, Sherry, I know you really, really want to be part of this and you would like to understand what this baby is like. And you'd like to sort of come in and maybe share this little moment with us. And so why don't you come closer and you can, you can find out everything you'd like to know close up. I'll give you another example. I was working with somebody who had identified a child who was always asking a lot of questions and was annoying to the adult. It was a person who was working in a setting in which there were a lot of kids. And everybody had identified him as really annoying. And when she started to sort of unravel, well, what are his strengths? She realized that curiosity was his top strength and that he just really wanted to understand what she was doing, what was going on, what was happening. And as soon as she understood that she gave him a way to be curious and to sort of feed that in himself without sort of becoming obnoxious or overdoing it. She gave it air or space, and then it allowed him to really express himself in a way that was better for him and better for her.
Now, when we talk about adults and we identify their strength, we talk about adults we talk about strengths such as curiosity, love of learning, gratitude, humor. Are these the same strengths that we find in kids, in little adults?
So what we think is that that strengths are like many things, that they need context to grow and develop, and that there are particular strengths that are more evident. You can observe them more closely in young kids, and that as kids grow, you begin to see more and more of the strengths unfold. I think there are all the strengths reside, like a lot of our capacities, but they need the environmental context to really grow and develop.
So like a seed that needs to bloom.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the parents. What are the implications of thinking about their strengths? Why is it so important in the context of parenting?
So parenting, I think, is the hardest job that we have, and we have no preparation for it.
Fully agree.
Yeah, and even if we've been exposed to kids and we babysat or we had jobs around kids, it's different when it's our child and you see that child for the first time. And what happens is, it happens very quickly, and there is this context of, am I going to be good at this? Can I do this well? And we can't know that ahead of time, and there are all kinds of challenges at the beginning, and it's really, really easy to begin a pattern of feeling really bad about yourself and inadequate, like it's not what I thought it was going to be, it's not as easy for me, and we begin this sort of negative tape about our inadequacies as parents. And then we do it in the backdrop of a world that looks at us and often judges us for how our kids behave. So if you have a crying child, people look at you like, can't you control your child? All 2-year-olds tantrum, but still in the grocery store, everybody looks at their child who's tantruming. And I think the way people internalize that is, I'm not doing a very good job. And so I think parents have a tendency to be very hypercritical and to forget that they have these strengths, and because we have a tendency to focus on the negative, and we can recall and remember all the mistakes we've made and all the things that we wish we did differently, but we don't really reflect on those moments that are just priceless and wonderful, in which we saw our kids and we embraced them and we were our best with them. And I think that's really the challenge of this, and that's why it's so critically important that we help parents to begin to see that they really do have the strengths that they can bring forward to be the kind of parents they want to be. We all have to grow into that. I mean, nobody's ever perfect at anything. But if we can help people to begin to flip the switch on themselves, then I think it gives them an opportunity to start to flip the switch on their children.
First of all, I can certainly relate to that. I remember very distinctly our first child was born when I started to teach at Harvard, and I remember standing in front of a very large audience and feeling extremely competent, and then going home and having to deal with this tiny, gorgeous creature and feeling completely incompetent.
Yeah.
And it was such radical dissonance between these two experiences. And I wish I heard these words then, because what we think about ourselves matters a great deal.
Yeah.
We talk about the Pygmalion effect, which is how if a teacher or a parent believes in the kid is much more likely to fulfill his or her potential.
Yeah.
But the Pygmalion effect affects the parent, the adult, as much as it does the kid.
Right.
And if the tapes that I'm playing in my head is I'm not good, I'm incompetent, that is likely to become a self-fulfilling prophecy, and we're certainly not going to fulfill our potential as parents.
Right.
So it's such an important emphasis of parenting.
And if you can celebrate your strengths, and you can do that in the context of your child, then you're also doing something entirely different than has happened before, which is that we are really hyper self-critical, and then our kids observe that. And they can see us judging ourselves, and it doesn't give them the freedom to be their best selves and to live with sort of an, I'd say, a mindfulness about the difficulties in life and how we can bring the best parts of ourselves forward, even in spite of the difficulties and challenges we face.
Yeah, that's a real motivation, because I know a few things in my life that I've had difficulty changing, and after saying, well, I have to change those things, work on those things for the sake of my children, because it will impact them. That was a much stronger motivation for me than, well, it can wait. I'll change it later.
Yeah, yeah.
So thinking about how we can be better role models for our kids, if we're more focused on our own strength, if we're less critical, less deficiency-oriented, for the sake of our children as well, I think that can certainly help in terms of motivation and in terms of sticking to it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the other benefit is that, and we talk about this a lot, about being present, is that if you're focused on strengths, you are being present. And those moments in which we share a presence with our kids that's the glue of the relationship, of kids feeling seen and then kids seeing us at our best. And I think that's the glue that sort of binds and holds that relationship.
Is this is certainly a conversation that I can think about having with my wife. Is it possible to have a strength conversation with a kid?
Yeah. I think we think that kids don't understand the language of strengths, but they really do. And even really young kids understand the language of strengths. And there are all kinds of exemplars. I mean, there are all kinds of superheroes and things like that, but there are also everyday heroes that kids look at all the time. And I think that they get sort of lit up when they see and they understand and they resonate with what it is. So if I see something, a character, or cartoon character even, and somehow that's something like me, it becomes very real and tangible to me, and I feel very empowered by it. Like it's not just this image out there, but it's something that I possess also, and I have great ability to sort of act on that. And it also enables kids to see other kids. So I think it's also a great tool to use in talking to groups of kids, because kids then start to see the best parts of themselves as opposed to that competitive edging out that kids do sometimes around skills and talents.
Yeah, so even if we go to a movie with our kids, we can have a strength-based conversation around the movie right after.
Yeah, yeah. I remember there was a movie that all the characters had names, Elastigirl and whatever, And I think there are lots of movies that really embody the character strengths. It's like a perfect opportunity. I love movies. It's a perfect opportunity. And kids, I think, love visual images, so it's very real to them as well.
What about weaknesses? What about problems or issues that parents are having in the context of raising their children?
So this is not a way of saying that there aren't struggles, that people don't struggle with things, but it is a way of saying that we have other things available to us to deal with those struggles. I think that a strength-based approach looks at a whole range of tools that you can bring to bear on a conflict or problem. And I think coming at it from strengths, it also removes the judgment and the barriers around just feeling bad about yourself. Because it isn't easy. There are lots of moments in parenting that, after the fact, we can really kick ourselves for not having the the Andy Griffith response. I always like to think of it. He was such a good exemplar of a parent. But I think that looking at strengths balances the equation. And so it allows us to live without judgment, to live in a way that allows us to grow.
So tomorrow I'm going back home and I'm going to be spending the day with the kids. They're on holidays. What practical advice do you have for me? So we wake up, they usually come into our bedroom.
Yeah.
How do we start the conversation, or how do we start the day?
It might be a good idea to say that we had this conversation and that we talked about how people have a variety of strengths, and that all people have a variety of strengths, and to talk about what some of those strengths are. And then maybe to guess, what do you think your top strengths might be? Because what happens in the context of groups or families is that everybody chimes in. Like, what do you think this child's top strengths are? I've done it with groups of people. I did it with a group of boys and girls staff. But I think all groups have a similarity to them. And we began to talk about strengths of individuals in the group, and we had done it in a paired way, so people were talking in pairs. And then what happened was everybody wanted to chime in and say, oh, but no, I saw that strength. And then the other piece of it is not just to say the strength, so I saw you being persistent, but to give the evidence of that. Like, I saw you, I have been blown away by you trying to ride your bike. And I've seen you do it every day. And it's been such effort and such care about how you do it and how you make sure that when you fall, you learn something from that. And it just is amazing to me. And I think that those are gifts, and they're willing and ready to share. I think it lights kids up when they think that they're seen for who they are. And so I think that's a great opportunity when you go back to.
And you would have this conversation with all of the kids, and the kids can chime in about one another. I saw you do that, and here is where.
You could do it in that way if you want to just say, I'm been exposed to this and I wanted to see what this was like to try out with you. Or you could just do it in an organic way. You could just begin to notice what you see in them, what you hear in their stories. Stories are incredible ways that kids reveal their strengths. They're full of stories. And to hear who they were in a story and to be able to identify that with them is also very powerful. So you can observe it directly with evidence, or you can hear it through their stories.
So it can be going into an interaction with the kid with the explicit question. What are the kids' strengths? What are they exemplifying? And then with the explicit commitment, how can I highlight this for the kid?
Yeah. How can I value it? How can I value it in a way that they know? Because a lot of times you ask parents to talk about their kids, they'll talk about their strengths. Not like they don't know them. You know your kids' strengths, right? But
not to the kid.
Not to them. Yeah. And when I've been in therapy sometimes. Early on when I was a therapist, I think I was particularly good at seeing kids' strengths and valuing them, but I wasn't as explicit in sharing that. And in sharing that, I could give them the tools to be able to use those strengths going forward in their lives. And that was a regret of mine, that I missed opportunities to share what I observed. Even though I valued them and they felt valued by me, I think I could have done better by them.
So it's like a three-step process. It's noticing, valuing, and then expressing.
Yeah.
I think that's also a good process for couples.
Yeah.
And something that couples can do on a regular basis. So my wife and I have a practice where we appreciate one another.
Yeah.
We appreciate what we did during the week. And I think this could be a very interesting addition to that practice. And what strength did I notice, value, and here they are.
Yeah, and it might be nice to do it in front of your kids, to have your kids see you in that, because they also...
It's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, will come to see those things in you as well.
Yeah, again, leading by examples, because they often do what we do even more so than what we say.
Yeah, and it would be really fun to have them share if they thought they saw that too. Because that is also very building of relationship. Can you imagine you're having a conversation with your wife and you say, I just saw you do the most amazingly kind thing with that person. I saw you, you really extended yourself, or you took them something, and then the kids say, oh yeah, I saw that too. I saw her being kind and really loving with that person. So then it begins to be like a shared language, and it's like you're valuing each other in the context of family. And it's very strengthening, I think.
Thank you very much, Donna. This has been wonderful, and I know exactly what I'm taking home to my family.
Good. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much.
And thank you for watching Happier TV. For more interviews, for more questions and answers, for more reflections, please join us. Thank you.